Watching News at Prime, let's bring you this conversation now. Tourism Minister Patricia De Lille says operations are continuing at South African tourism despite the absence of a permanent board. Last month, De Lille dissolved the board, accusing it of making unlawful decisions and reckless spending. Another major concern was that the board's alleged unlawful special meeting, which resulted in the suspension of the acting CEO, Nombulelo Kuliwe. Now, De Lille argues that the board's decision shows a clear disregard for governance rules and her role as the overseeing minister. Let's take a listen to Minister De Lille for a moment.
There is no instability. There is no crisis. We continue to work with or without them. I have appointed 6 South Africans. I have appointed a chair and a deputy chair, and they started work already. I gazetted their names on the 22nd last week. And so there's no crisis. They had already met twice, and they continue to look at the priorities within SAT.
Let's stay with Minister De Lille, who adds that the board can challenge her decision if it feels it's illegitimate.
And so I also maintain that if what I've done is against the law or not in terms of the law, maybe the best solution is go to the courts. We've got an independent judiciary. They can take my decision on review. And I'm ready for that because I've got legal advice that I acted in terms of the law, and nobody will tell me to ignore the laws. In terms of our constitution, the highest law in this country, we are all equal before the law. If the board thinks that they are above the law, they've got something coming for them.
That's Minister Patricia De Lille. Let's stay with this story. Joining me now is former South African Tourism Board member Lawson Naidoo, who was part of the former board members of the South African Tourism in Parliament yesterday. Mr. Naidoo, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. Before we get to grips with some of the issues that the minister has had to say there, spring has sprung and September is Tourism Month at a time when the tourism authorities in South Africa should be concerned with how do we hype up South Africa as a tourist destination. This is where we are. What do you think the state of tourism is at the moment in South Africa?
Well, I think there's a real problem in the sector at the moment. I mean, the private sector continues to do its work, as it always does. They've expressed their concerns about the recent developments at SA Tourism and expressing their confidence in the dissolved board. There is no marketing department to speak of at South African Tourism, with the chief marketing officer as well as other key staff in the marketing department having been placed on suspension by the CEO. So there is a crisis, despite what the minister says.
Well, let's hear you respond to her, because she is very clear in her words that there is no crisis. So someone listening to you is going to say, what is Lawson talking about?
Well, you know, trade shows have been cancelled. The largest conference and meetings trade show that's happening in the US, there will be no sort of South African participation there. That's going to affect, you know, the line of forthcoming conferences, international conferences, business conferences, meetings and expos that we would normally be able to attract to South Africa in the coming years. That's going to be hugely impacted. There are other trade engagements where our participation is now in doubt. So that there are clear problems there. You know, the minister is brushing those aside. But I think the real issue here, colleague, is the issue of, you know, the minister saying that she's happy and prepared to defend herself in court. But I think the country watched yesterday as she appeared in Parliament and was unable to defend herself in Parliament. She could not answer the questions that were being posed by members of Parliament to her In fact, this very morning, the chair of the Portfolio Committee described the minister's behavior as evasive, that the minister had not provided the committee with the documents that they had requested before the meeting started yesterday. So the minister, while saying that she's ready to fight this battle in court, was clearly unable to respond to the questions in Parliament yesterday. And I think she recognizes that she's on a very shaky legal ground as well, because the simple fact of the matter, as I've said before, is that there was no meeting of the board on the 1st of August. The decision that was taken there and subsequent decisions of the now dissolved board were taken through proper processes, including circulation of resolutions which were signed by all of the members of the board, including the issue around the suspension of the CEO, Nombulelo Guliwe.
You were part of the board that she dismissed recently, or that she dissolved recently, Lawson. The people that were in Parliament yesterday also, who are former board members, were part of a previous board, and they are suing the minister as we speak, both in her official and personal capacity. I want to know, from the recent board, you intimated that you were consulting legally. Have you come to a decision yet?
Colleen, no, we have not. We're still consulting with our lawyers. We're reflecting on the developments in Parliament yesterday, and we will come to a decision soon, I'm sure, one way or the other. It is true that the two former members of the previous board, the former chair and deputy chair, were also in Parliament yesterday. They have litigation pending against the minister, but that's a totally separate matter. That's a defamation case that they have brought, and obviously I cannot comment on the litigation that they have initiated.
Yeah. I want to then move us quickly, almost towards the middle or the end of that session yesterday. And someone said, what is required here with the state of play as it is a meaningful reflection and action is what the former board members are wishing for, so that whoever is responsible must take accountability. Now, another person said the minister showed a pattern of overreach. When all is said and done, Mr. Naidoo, who is to take accountability for the fact that the country right now does not have people at the helm of an agency that is meant to advertise this country? Let's remember that the tourism industry contributes quite handsomely to the GDP of this country, which means it creates employment.
Indeed, and that's why I come back to the point, Golly, that there is a crisis. And I think that that responsibility lies squarely with the minister, and I think that was made very clear in Parliament yesterday, where members from across political parties made the same point, is that the minister has created this crisis that exists by failing, firstly, to appoint a deputy chair when she appointed the board in September last year. For 10 months, she failed to appoint a deputy chair, so that when the chair resigned on the 31st of July this year, there was no chair or deputy chair, which forced us as a board to take other steps, including round-robin resolutions, all of which were taken unanimously. And the minister has accused me of taking executive decisions at South African tourism. That could not be further from the truth. Every decision that was taken collectively and unanimously. And moreover, when the minister appeared on this very TV station this morning, she was asked a question that she totally failed to respond to, is how was it that she came privy to correspondence from the board to a senior manager at South African Tourism. She's unable to respond to those, and that is merely an example of the kind of overreach and the interference that has been in play by the minister.
Final question, Mr. Naidoo. You may not be the right person to ask this of, because you're not the employer of the minister, the president is, but is she still the right minister to steer this particular department, or do you feel otherwise?
Well, it's not what I feel, colleague. It's really a question, and I think this was raised in Parliament again yesterday. In closing the meeting early yesterday evening, the chairperson of the committee summarized the deliberations and the way forward. And she did indicate that the committee will have to consider whether they should not be writing to the leader of government business, that being the deputy president, to bring to his attention the conduct of the minister in dealing with the affairs at South African tourism. So I think that's a matter that Parliament is better placed to deal with, and one that they've clearly put on their agenda and will be reflecting on in due course.
Lawson Naidoo, thank you very much for your time.